Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Wanderlust Wealth Show. Today, I have Jamie Banks, who started in the real estate space, kind of just like right out of college, but in the commercial banking space, but quickly pivoted to becoming a full-time real estate investor, fully focused on the midterm rental strategy. I'm so excited to just dive in. I know you've got so many cool tips and tricks around processes and things like that. So just so excited to have you on the call here today. Welcome to the show, Jamie.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, so Jamie, why don't you tell everyone, like, who was Jamie before the real estate investing, before the business?
Sure. So, wasn't very happy. After college, I went into commercial banking. So I was doing commercial real estate for a commercial lender. I'm also at the same time was in grad school getting my MBA full time. So balanced both. So definitely very hectic, very stressed. And then after graduating with my degree, I remember just still not being happy. And I realized the degree was kind of what was making me happy and pushing me every day. And then I just wasn't fulfilled by the work. And so I started listening to Bigger Pockets and things like that, and really just got the itch of real estate investing. And then realized that a lot of what I was doing for work already translated to what I wanted to do. And so that was a great way. I call it job hacking, where I pivoted where I was taking on more tasks. I remember I volunteered to be the asset manager for the entire multifamily portfolio. And my manager was like, "You want to?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And he's like, "Okay." And it wasn't because I wanted a lot more work. It's because I wanted to experience, running that kind of size portfolio and seeing, what it entailed, because I knew I wanted to be an asset manager, myself, for my own business.
No, I love that. And that's what I tell people, because everyone's always thinking of, different side hustles and things that you can do. And I've always been on the train of thought of, if you can get into something where you can at least be adjacent to what you want to do, or at least that's kind of why I got my real estate license, because I was just like, I can at least learn more about real estate and get paid to do it, right? Versus just doing some other random odd job out there that isn't actually going to put me closer to my goals. So I love that you kind of did that within your job, and you were making the most out of what was previously a crappy situation.
Yeah, exactly. And when I started, I shifted my mindset of, I'm here to learn. Then I was like, okay, even though I don't love it. And my second employer was much better than my first, where the culture was better. It was more of a startup. I was like a team on a company of 200 versus our first company was 40,000. So, being a smaller company, I think that was a great pivot as well, because I took on more responsibilities. I saw how a large organization kind of compared to mine, but a smaller organization compared to the first one I worked for was able to run. And definitely shifting my mindset and utilizing as much as I could from that opportunity to learn definitely helped me at least feel more confident, because I took leaps quickly. Like, I bought my first investment property and quit 3 months later, which I don't necessarily recommend. But for me, I realized soon that, okay, I have the knowledge. I had, hit a point where I needed to change, the knowledge that I was getting or do more. And so I ended up, co-hosting, which we'll talk about a little bit later, just to learn more about how to operate properties at scale. But I realized I needed to take that leap because I had already learned a lot from my W-2.
Totally. So I guess tell me, how did you get that first property?
Sure. So I can say, so my first property was my primary that I bought as a primary. I knew nothing about house hacking in 2020. I was actually a 2020 bride, and my wedding was canceled. And a lot of people cried. I didn't. I was like, let's buy a house.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
So we already planned I planned a 30-person wedding in Georgia, which people know Georgia during the pandemic, didn't hear about COVID.
Yep.
So we got married in July 2020, and on an island.
That's so funny.
And I remember going out, we did our honeymoon in Savannah because we couldn't go to Aruba, and everybody was outside. And I was like, it's coronavirus. I want to go inside. People were lined up going to the club, and I was like, no, thank you. But it worked for us because we had, a little over $10,000 that we were going to use for our we were going to have a 200, 300 person party, a reception. And so we were able to use that to buy a house. And I thought, because I don't, my mom isn't a homeowner. I don't, come from A lot of people like, in my immediate circle aren't homeowners. And so I thought you had to put 20% down. And so when I learned, you might as well were, high income earners, we had more than 3% down, but we could put 3% down and we got a 2.75% rate because we bought a 2020.
Beautiful. I know. I still have a 2.75 on my first property. I'm like, that's just never getting rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I thought about like doing something creative with it because right now I'm turning it into a midterm rental because me and my husband are going to move. But I just, I looked at different solutions of how to, dispose of it. Should I do seller financing? But I was like, no, I'm keeping this thing. And there's more stuff construction. So I'm like, oh no, I got to keep this thing forever. But I didn't house hack immediately. Essentially, I actually went out and then bought an investment property in 2023. So 3 years later, as a second home. So that's when I decided, hey, I want to invest. I read 30 Days Stay. I know you just had Liana on the podcast. So I read 30 Days Stay and realized, this midterm rental strategy is for me. And so then I bought an investment property as a second home, which like my lender, basically the definition was you had to buy a property that was over 65 miles away from your primary home. I live in Virginia and I bought in Philly. And so I bought it at 10% down, which was $120,000. So
amazing.
Wasn't, a lot. Furnished it. It's a midterm rental to this day. And it's already been rented to insurance relocation companies where they're paying the rent. I'm getting about 3 times long-term rent. What I would get, I cash flow $70-50 on that property, which is nice, especially at such a low price point. And so I've actually gotten my investment back completely on that property. And so this kind of shows like it wasn't an expensive property. I spent probably $12,000 to $15,000 furnishing it. And part of that would include like labor, people coming to help, put things together. I do not put things together. I just like to order people around, basically.
That is where I'm at right now too. Like at the beginning, I would do everything by myself, but literally for this house, because it's a big project too. This weekend I was painting my garage. I did half of a wall. I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Just hired people. I have people coming to build furniture tomorrow. I'm like, I'm not doing anything else anymore.
For the last month, I was saying that I was going to DIY my primary that I'm turning to a midterm rental, but then nothing gets done. Because once I'm done my work day, I'm like, I'm tired. I don't want to.
So tired. So done. One, I keep thinking about like highest and best use of my time. Because at the end of the day, me building furniture is not the highest and best use of my time. The only time now it's gotten to the point where sometimes I will build it if I'm sitting and watching TV. Like if I'm decompressing for the day and I'm sitting on the couch, I'm like, okay, Olivia, like you can build and do this at the same time. But that's literally more just because I feel the need to be productive for like every minute of my day, which is not always the best thing. Oh my gosh. Also, it's so funny. I love how you kind of had, like the show Marriage or Mortgage, and you have to decide between a house and a wedding.
I'm always going to choose the mortgage.
Yeah. I love that so much. But I think the big thing here too is, that first investment property, even though you weren't house hacking it from the get-go, it sounds like your mindset for it was for it to eventually be an investment property. And that's the difference that I see, because I even saw this post on Threads like yesterday, and someone said, your primary home isn't an investment property, prove me wrong. And I'm like, well, if you buy it with the intention of it being an investment property from day one, then yeah, it is a really good investment.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then so after I bought my first investment property, I got an arbitrage. Then I basically came home from Philly. I was there for a few weeks. I just like living in the property and getting everything set up. I was like, let's start house hacking, especially when I decided to quit my job, which, for us, I got married. And so for us, it was like, we can live off one income, even if I make, $0.00 as long as I don't, spend too much money per month. We can kind of keep this, sustained at least where I don't have to worry about bills. Because obviously that's a big thing for entrepreneurs who go full time. Is like, I didn't want the stress of worrying about bills. So my husband W-2 can support that. And so for us, it was like, okay, but we need to make some sacrifices. So one was we have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath condo. Our condo set up where our primary is on one side and the other 2 bedrooms with 1 bath is on the other side. And so my husband first wasn't down for it, but I'm like, hey, that we can get $1,500 for a room. Our mortgage, it's $1,537. I was like, let's do it. It was furnished. And so we listed it on Furnish Finder to rent to travel medical professionals. It's very clear on my listing. That's what I recommend for house hacking. Make it very clear to travel medical professionals. Because even to this day, I still get requests from people who just where I live in Westlake, Virginia, a one bedroom might be 3,000. So 1,500 for a room. Everyone wants it. I'm like, oh no, it's not for someone who's here long term. It's for a travel medical professional, and that's we got one of them is we got an intern, but we've gotten people who are here for work, who are at work, and they usually travel in 13-week increments. And so I'm like, hey, if we hate it, it's 13 weeks. In our first tenant, I saw her maybe 10 times.
Yeah.
She's always on call. And then,
I love medical, like travel nurses and stuff, because they literally are never at the property. And when they are, they're sleeping.
Exactly. And right there. And I think especially people renting a room and traveling for work who've rented rooms before, they're renting a room. So like the room is a nice size. I have like a small like desk in there, like a monitor that doubles as a TV. They have their own closet and their own bathroom, which I think was the biggest thing. So just like if I have guests that, people come over, they just use me and my husband's bathroom, but they have their own room. Their bedroom isn't near ours, so they don't have to worry about when they're asleep if we're up, and vice versa, especially if they're sleeping, like different hours, have blackout curtains and things like that. And so we've done it. We've had 3 different tenants. Now we're turning it into a full MTR. And so it's but just doing, I'm doing the research phase and now I know how much I can get. As my property, like I have I'm like you, Olivia, I'm very fashion forward. My husband loves navy. So we just have like navy walls where where I am, just the tenant type is very white walls. This behind me, it's like a gray wall. They have to get away with gray, but they won't like navy, right? So there's just some things that's falling down. And like I have a couch that's 4 years old. I'm like, I probably should just replace it. And then I can get $1,000 more based on comps just by having a king. And I'm like,
for sure.
I'm easily, I'm definitely going to replace the king. So just doing research, things like that, definitely like you can't just leave your property and turn it into an MTR, or you house hacked as well. And so me and my husband are hopefully, fingers crossed, relocating to Indianapolis, where we're going to house hack, hopefully like a multi-family, and get another house hack. And then I'm working on buying some like smaller deals in Indianapolis as well. So I just think it's really attainable because, there's things you can do. And in my third property, I actually bought creatively. I'm using creative terms. And so I've raised private money and had like different partnerships and stuff. But I like to think like one thing I didn't think of when I quit my job is how am I going to get money to continue to buy real estate? I didn't think about that till after I quit. And I was like, oh.
I know. So that was going to be another question I asked you. Is like, I know you said you wouldn't recommend leaping right away, right, into full-time investing or entrepreneurship. Why is that? Like, what are the reasons you have there? Because there's so many people who come to me, and like, you see, I kind of did the same thing, right? I literally had one property and one under contract when I quit. I was like, bye. But I also went into hustle mode hard because I knew that I was losing this 6-figure income. It was just like, okay, I need to replace that somehow, but that has to come from an active business at first, because I did not have the cash. Like I was doing well. I had all my living expenses paid for, included like my car, don't have a car payment, but included my insurance and all of that, groceries, all of that was covered. But in order to buy more properties, you still need to make more money.
No, exactly. So I think part of the reason is I have like you an active business. So I tell people I quit my job to be a real estate entrepreneur. Yeah. So I'm a real estate investor. And I have 3 properties that cash flow very nicely because they're midterm rentals. But with isn't replacing my 6-figure income either. And so I had an active business. And so basically I started a co-hosting business where, because one, I always had the next step ahead for me, where I knew was raising capital. My grandfather was my first private lender. He actually continues to want to lend. And he is like, he's an OG real estate investor. He started investing. He's 92 now. He's still like, he wants to invest, but he's a hands-on landlord. He does not really showing up with tools at 92. And so now he's starting to sell off his portfolio, but wants to be like a passive investor. And so like, that's the way that I was able to structure things and keep buying. And now, I'm actively pursuing passive partnerships where someone basically is the capital partner. I have a few of those secured, and that's like we're kind of all looking for different things. Like in terms of unit size, because they have different investment I'm excited that, one partner where we're looking at single family homes, so maybe buy 3 together. And, it takes a lot to determine if you want to invest with someone, especially with me being the boots on the ground, right? My kind of typical investor that I'm working with is someone who they've pretty much mostly been high earners. They're doctors or lawyers.
Yeah.
They have no time, but a lot of money. And they want the perks of real estate investing. And they have usually some type of retirement fund. And I get them to convert it to a self-directed IRA. And so that we can, work together that way. And so it's because they're looking for longer term relationships where some people get private money, but usually private money that's a debt partnership, they're looking for like a quick turnaround. They're looking for somebody who's flipping or someone who's doing the burn method. That's not our strategy. I'm more of a long-term hold. Well, I am a long-term hold investor. And so I'm renting it out. I'm, maybe doing slight renovations. I'm, my strategy now is securing B2B contracts on like the properties from insurance, relocation companies, corporate relocation companies, construction companies, and they're able to really increase the rent that way. And so that's my strategy, where they're going to get a lot higher return than if they work with someone who's just doing long-term rentals. But it's going to be I'm telling my investors a 10-year hold. Now, in 5 years, we're going to see if we're going to sell it, but that's my investment strategy. So that's one thing where basically I was at the point where like my husband's income wasn't going to replenish enough that we were going to be able to buy multiple investment properties. I bought 2 last year. And so one was our own capital and then the second amount of capital that I raised. I think now I'm at the point where I'm actively raising and probably will continue to raise, where now I am confident in my ability. I have, proof of concept. And so it's easier to find investors who sometimes they get burnt out.
Yeah.
Honestly. Or a lot of my investors, actually my capital partners, were clients who came to me for consulting. And they're like, hey, I want to do a midterm rental. And I'm very blunt and very honest. I'm like, look, this is what you're going to have to do. If they're in a market where, let's say, short-term rentals are regulated, I was telling them about the challenges. And they're like, actually, I'd rather invest.
Well, and that's the thing. So many people, obviously, and I think it's so important for everyone to try real estate investing, just to try it, see if you even like it. But everyone's automatically thinks right off the bat, like, oh my gosh, this is my ticket out. I'm going to quit my job, blah, 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 blah. And I tell people, just get your first property. Get your first property. See if you even like it, right? Because so many people also get into real estate investing. They're like, oh, wow, this is actually a lot of work. And I don't know if I want to do this anymore, And that's when they do come to people like you who are raising private money so that they can invest fully passively.
Yeah, exactly. Or people don't realize the amount of time they have, right? If you're a doctor and you have times where you are unavailable because you have a commitment to your patients, you're in surgery. Like my client and my old partner can't answer the phone because she's in surgery. And so she had a short-term rental and she had something that she wanted to see, but she's like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
If someone's checking in while I'm in surgery, I'm not going to see it for 5 hours.
Yeah.
So that's not going to work. And then you can work with the co-host. You might be charging 20%, 30%, right? There's different ways that people will do it, but I think you'll even realize, and we always push is, even if you're working with a co-host or property manager, you as the owner should still be doing asset management. Should still be checking in on that property manager, that co-host, to see how things are going, to see, are you making the same amount of money, less money? If so, why? More money. Great, let's keep doing that. But, it still requires some type of active involvement, right? Where I think a partnership's a lot different because both of you have skin in the game. Both of you have equity. And so, with my passive partner now, right now I'm going out, I'm finding the deal. I fly to Indianapolis every 2 months or so to look at deals, to meet the contractors, to talk to brokers, to write offers, to do all those things. And my partner has no time to do that.
Yeah.
She had no time. And so that was one thing for me that I realized being full-time was, okay, now that's my huge value add. It took me taking a few courses and partnering with investors who, has structured those kinds of partnerships to learn to do that. And so that's one thing. When I quit, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
But it worked out. It definitely worked out. I think especially having a limited time. I don't have kids, so I can literally pack up and go same day as long as I have.
Yes.
So that's a great, being flexible is great, but not everyone's going to have that ability.
Okay. Okay, y'all, do I have something exciting for you? Now, I just came out with a brand new free training on exactly how you, yes, you can get started investing in real estate within the next 3 months. Because if you're someone who wants more freedom in your life, the ability to travel the world and do the things that you actually want to do in life, you're going to want to listen up. Trust me. Now, this training is freaking awesome. I literally go in and spill the tea on the number one strategy that is working right now, like literally today in today's market. And I go over how to look at deals and make sure that they actually cash flow, and how to set your properties up so that you can run them from anywhere in the world. Like, I literally have managed my properties from over 6 different time zones. So if you are stuck in analysis paralysis, you don't know where to start when it comes to real estate investing, but you know that it's something that you want to do in the future, this training is going to be for you. So to check it out, click the link in the show notes or DM me the word hack, like HACK, on Instagram, and I will send you the link. Now let's dive back into the show. Totally. And I think what people don't realize too with entrepreneurship, it's like, yes, you can make literally so much more money, right? Like, you make infinitely more money, but you also have a lot more expenses. And if you don't know how to manage your money up front, like at the beginning, you're going to have a really hard time being an entrepreneur, because money management is like one of the key pillars of actually having a successful business and a successful like real estate investment portfolio too.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then optimizing those properties too. And or like realizing like, okay, I have 2 virtual assistants that help run my business with VA's cost. Now, it's not that much of a cost, but I've had VAs where, I have properties that are vacant. So, they might not be doing as much work, or they, properties are vacant for different reasons. And so you have business expenses, I have technology. Another one thing is like, if you have employees, you have to pay, like on Monday, I know you pay per seat, like Monday.com. Most softwares you're paying per seat. And so when you have more employees or with VAs, right, you still have to pay additional expenses that way. And so definitely. Also, my past employers, I had the corporate card. So I used to swipe the card every time.
Right. You didn't even think about it.
Mine, it's more, I don't like it. If you're per diem, I don't like it one bit. Well, that's one part I do miss. But, I think that there's benefits, but there's definitely expenses. And it's like, how are you going to support that? And so luckily for me, I was able to raise private money for operations, where then I was able to have a good, it was my grandfather. We got really good terms. I used some of it for a transaction for a property, and some of it just to fund operations, because I was like, dang, I'm someone who likes to be liquid, who likes to have cash in case emergencies happen, especially older property. And so I'm like, I don't want to have to go out and put things on a credit card, right? Yeah. And you get to think about that too, where, do I want to liquidate a 401k? Do I want to borrow money? What's the best way to have access to capital? And there's different ways, but I think W2, it's much easier to get, capital, because you're easily lendable. Where on paper, I'm not going to be lendable for at least another year, because, I quit my job, but it's not, my business doesn't have 2 years of sustainable income. Yeah. So that's one thing you think about too, is debt on the property. You're not going to be able to get conventional financing. You're probably going to have to get a DSCR loan, debt service coverage ratio loan, or.
Yeah, so I really want to dive in, because I know you do some interesting midterm rental strategies. Because I think when a lot of people think of midterm rentals, most people just only think of traveling nurses, right? And maybe digital nomads. But you kind of went direct to businesses instead of direct to consumers. So can you kind of talk to me more about the strategy that you are doing and how it's different and what the returns are in comparison to going direct to consumer?
Sure, exactly. So one thing I've realized, especially in markets where short-term rentals are heavily regulated or even banned, in certain markets, it causes pressure on the midterm rental market. And so if you're just listing on Airbnb and going direct to consumer, you're competing with everyone else. You want the most beautiful property at the cheapest price. That's what all the tenants want. That's what I want to. So it's okay. But I realized that there are businesses that need temporary housing that don't have housing themselves, right? And so I can give you an example. Insurance relocation companies. So what happens is, if, let's say, Bob and his family's home catches on fire, but they're all okay. and they call State Farm, their insurance company, and they're like, hey, we don't have a house. It catches on fire. Well, State Farm calls an insurance relocation company because they themselves don't deal with housing, right? They're an insurance company. They're State Farm. They're making commercials and stuff, right? They're not in the housing market. And so they go to a third party, like the biggest one is AOE Solutions. And so they'll go to this company, and this company needs housing for Bob and his family, or for all these occupants, for all these different claims. And they have a network of landlords like me, like you, like anyone, where they are pulling those properties from. And so that's a company that I've worked with, and, I've made connections with some of the reps. I utilize different marketing strategies now to market to them via email and other means. And so for that, like, I have a property in Philadelphia that when I mentioned I bought for $120,000. Long-term rent on that would be $1,100. I have a tenant in there. He's been in there. It'll be almost a year now. His home caught fire. They still haven't started rebuilding it.
Oh my gosh.
So,
yeah. So he's going to be there for a while.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I get $3,500.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to get a lot higher. A great thing too about working with businesses going B2B is I'm able to put a lot more, I would say I'm able to put a lot more miscellaneous charges. So as a landlord, I'm able to, I have a $500 admin fee, which, you can't just charge a tenant an admin fee, unless you're a large kind of apartment building. But those are just kind of charges that you're able to include. And then another thing is, with my lease, I'm able to, it's easier to negotiate. So like one stipulation I have on my midterm rental leases is that I have a utility cap. And so I know like max on that same $120,000 property in Philly that my max utility is $300, and that's very high. Mm-hmm. And so if anything is above that, so I can run my numbers at 300 max, and then anything above that, it would be billed back. And so that's like one strategy that I've utilized, or even just understanding the businesses that are coming into an area.
Yeah, that's like one of my students, Devlin, she did a utility cap in her lease as well. And like, she knows that for her area, $200 and she lived in the property before. So she was like, $200, that's already really high. But then the tenant actually converted the garage into like a little play area not fully converted, but like added an AC unit, like not a proper one, but like a mini split unit in the garage, and was running it for the whole time for her kids to make it like a play area. And the electricity bill was like $350. But thankfully she had the utility cap in there, because the extra $150, she was like, well, that's on you.
Well, I think that's a big thing too, because like I've had an Airbnb lease where I learned my lesson, where I had a tenant from California and he moved to Philly in the winter. Why? I don't know. Because he had my heat bill just so high. I sent a maintenance guy over there. I thought that we had an issue. She was just like, sorry, man, I'm cold.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what can I say to the guy? He's cold.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry. But you also shouldn't have came. Really, he was just trying like,
or wear a jacket inside or something.
But there's nothing I could do about that, because it was through Airbnb. I can have like a lease agreement, but it's also a person to go after that I would have to think, is it worth calling a small claim court if we can't settle this? Honestly, probably no. Yeah. Where a business is going to honor that commitment. Yeah. A lot easier, and they're used to seeing some of those stipulations.
Yes. And so for those businesses, they're not renting it through Airbnb, but they do sometimes find you through Airbnb, correct?
Yes. I would say for me now, like for my year, this year, my portfolio has been 100% booking direct. Mm-hmm. What I've done is really like built, like I use Monday.com. I talk about it like all the time on social media, but as like my CRM. And the reason why is because I can track lots of reasons. But one thing I like is that I'm able to track the email of the people that I'm corresponding with, set up different marketing campaigns and things like that. And so I have like a good amount of people that we're emailing on a bi-weekly basis of our available properties. So we have like certain triggers where, 2 weeks before property are becoming available, we're starting to heavily market it, get it out there so that we're going direct to businesses. I have had businesses reach out to me, or even consumers reach out to me from Airbnb and other means. Like one thing I put in my Airbnb listing is professionally managed by Radiate Real Estate. That's my business. And most people kind of put two and two together, go to Radiate Real Estate, they find me, and will reach out that way. Same thing on Furnish Finder. And I also, for I go very specific with my ideal tenant. So my property in Philly, it's in a C location. It's in a C plus location, and it's at the edge of the C location. Um, but it's a C location, and I realized that a female travel medical professional was not my ideal tenant, and so I've had actually all men in the property. A man
Interesting.
travel medical professional, and I'm not saying anything or things for housing laws and things like that, but when I'm doing my marketing, I just understand who it's marketing for. And another thing is now I really just want insurance relocation contract in that company. Like the guy who's in my property now is his house is 3 blocks away.
Yeah.
So he's from the neighborhood. He doesn't care about the neighborhood. That's when he is the neighborhood, right? So it's a lot different. Where my property that I'm sitting in right now, that is my primary. I have already out in a neighborhood, and so my ideal tenant is going to be probably like a more CEO or someone who's has a new job in the area, who's traveling with a family and things like that. And so there's certain things in my listing as I'm creating it that I really target. Or I have a bathtub. People I know with kids love, having a home with a bathtub, especially with young kids. And so that's something I might highlight where my tenant base were construction workers, for example. I wouldn't be highlighting a bathtub.
Yeah. One is crazy because what people don't realize is businesses always have so much more money to spend than everyday consumers, right? And I always think about this with some of my businesses. I'm like, do I pivot and just like sell to businesses? But I just have such a love for consumers. And like it's way too many emotions, but yeah, like businesses, especially insurance businesses or relocation businesses, stuff like that, they have so much more money and they're able to pay 2 times, 3 times what you would make from a regular consumer. So it's just such a smart way. And there's a need there. I know, for example, I was looking at, my parents were thinking of buying something in Houston, and there it's huge for traveling professionals just in general, like oil and gas industry, consultants, things like that. That's a perfect niche for something where you could get relocation companies. There's a lot of people moving there because of the energy industry, all of that stuff. So yeah, just always thinking about that. And then I know you said also about like contractors, right? That's something you're focusing on. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so like right now I'm looking like more so in the Midwest, and I'm kind of reversed into it where now, and I've been in 8 different markets when I was co-hosting, where I know what makes a good midterm rental or getting a bad midterm rental market. So now I really tried to find what's the perfect midterm rental market for me. And one of those is having different types of workers. And so one worker type that I think people are scared of is construction crews. I call them, and I'm sorry, this is the easiest way that I can describe them, is dirty nail construction crews or dirty boot construction crews, right? The ones who work in the field all day. However, like in some of those, like in Indianapolis, for example, at a motel, to put one guy in one motel room, and I mean like a Super 8 Motel 6.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever. Like it's $100 a night.
Yeah.
So one guy, they're spending $3,000 a month to stay in a motel. Mm-hmm. Well, they have 5 guys in the crew, that's $15,000 on both. And like one thing, I've actually been a corporate traveler, so one thing I know is if someone is traveling, for your corporation, they have to provide them a per diem, which is like a per day food expense. So that $15,000 a month does not include food expenses because they cannot cook in the motel in the Super 8.
Yeah.
Or let's stay at same 5-bedroom house. Well, in the Midwest, Indianapolis and Ohio and markets like that, where we're doing a lot of construction, you can find something for, let's say 4 bedrooms, or let's say you do 4 bedrooms and the master bedroom, you kind of split it up, right? And, maybe they do a flex wall or something like that. Because these construction workers were staying in Motel 6. So, a 1990s bill where you have things furnished, you furnish it relatively moderately. You might have to replace things because they're, dirty boot construction crews. And,
right. But you're also not getting like the nicest stuff, so it's okay.
Exactly. But you go in, and this is what I'm doing right now. Going in mindful of it. I'm not getting my same top quality hotel quality sheets.
Right.
I don't care about sheets. No. Right. I'm getting the sheets that I can get in bulk and get 10 pairs on the wall because they're going to mess them up.
100%.
I'm charging $1,000 cleaning fee because they're going to be dirty.
Yeah.
Thing that I'm gonna factor in. But remember, this company was paying $15,000 right? So I can start at $10,000 for my negotiation. Will it maybe take that? Maybe not.
Right.
But if I get down to 5,000, guess what? That like in Indianapolis, like in South like downtown Indianapolis, I can get, I don't know, probably 3 to 4 times what, that rental would be direct to consumer.
Right.
And so
and your properties there, I'm guessing, aren't super expensive either, right? So if you're doing $5,000 on a like $200,000 property,
exactly right. You're looking at it because like for me, I underwrite expecting a certain amount of cash flow, and because I'm working with partners, like they have a minimum threshold on the money that they're investing, and so I keep that in mind, and so I need to have a nice buffer. And so like I know some people do amazing with high cost luxury properties in high cost areas. I've done relatively well with the C class properties, and again, like mine now is A class, where it's interesting because I have an HOA where our HOA has went up $200, and so I've squeezed it, tighter and tighter on my profit. But we're A properties within the midterm rental space. Yeah, there's nice versus not nice, but there isn't like a market where because I have an HOA and because they do the lawn and take out the trash, I'm getting significantly higher than some place that they didn't do those amenities. And so the construction crews has been a great thing because they're traveling for years. So I know there's certain construction sites where they'll go and let's say they're building a huge battery plant. I know there's a area called Kokomo, Indiana, where they're building like a huge battery plant, right? And so like in this battery plant, they need hundreds and hundreds of workers for this small town. There isn't enough motels or hotels to house them. And so like using that same example, $15,000, like, and that's just for a simple no frills motel, right? And they might even be paying more than that. That's at least a negotiation point.
Yeah.
And so that for me has been like solving a problem. And then also if this company they don't just have 5 guys, at least later down the line, they may have 10 guys, or they might want to, if they have places to house their guys, they can get more business because they can send more workers there and they can get more money. So then now this is a win-win partnership off one company. And so that's the great thing. It's like consumers, like I remember my first year as an MTR operator, especially first like few months before I had VA, it was exhausting because I would get a tenant and I would be like, yay. And then they'd be in there for 2 months and now I'm finding another one.
Right.
And it was so yo. Yeah. And, it's better.
I know. That's like I just signed. So, I have also been house hack and I rented out my primary unit in New Orleans and I get a request for a full year. I'm like, yes, 100%. You can take it. Feel free to extend. Because I was expecting, okay, well, it might be 3 months, might be 4 months. I don't know, something like that. Because one of my units, I have 6 months, but I actually already have the next month filled with a different person. But, I'm expecting that shorter turnaround. But if you do get someone who is going to be there for a year, 2 years, it's always preferred at those MTR rates.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then I think too, it's like, with midterm rentals, it's usually the first week, I would say, where you're going to get the most requests, questions, even things you already told them, where, apart from a maintenance request, right? But like, once they're in that property, they become like a long-term tenant.
Yeah.
Yep. You might hear from them. And I think, especially for me, I like B2B. Sometimes they're sending company checks, which company checks are no clear. So I'll take company checks. Sometimes they have a more sophisticated system set up. It depends on the company that I'm working with. But a lot of times they're processing their rent on the 15th of the partner month. So I'm always getting it before the first, and they're starting to, in place where I'm getting verification. And so it's been a great strategy for me. And I feel like all 3 properties, I've, been able to do well and educate and live a life out and travel and stuff. And so I definitely think that utilizing the B2B strategy is more work, right? But can reward you where you have one, lower vacancy. So that means more money in your pocket for that year. And then also a higher rental rate than B2C.
No, so true. So true. I guess out of curiosity for you, like, what do you think is your zone of genius?
So it's definitely like being the like asset manager or operator. And like what I like to call that is just like executing a business plan.
Yeah.
So, I like underwrite or analyze my own deals and stuff like that. But for really, it's like executing that business plan and saying, okay, these are our options. This is the rent we have, but like, how are we going to really put things in place and really like systemize? I love systems, operation, organization. That's, part of what I did for some of like the companies I worked for before as well. But I realized that like for me, I love seeing things scale and multiply and putting things in place so that, whether you have one property or 1,000 properties, you have some type of system, in place to manage that flow.
Love that. Love that. Awesome. Well, we are reaching the end of the interview here, and I'm going to ask you the 3 final interview questions that I ask every single person that comes on the show. Number 1 is, what does your ideal perfect day look like?
So definitely starting the day at the gym. I like to do a workout class. I have like my gym has a sauna, a steam room, and an ice bath. So
I
just
love it.
Also a rooftop pool. I don't know if I'm doing too much in the morning, but spending the day, I like to start the day with self-care, and I feel like it really sets the tone for the rest of the day. I also like to journal a bit and plan out my day before I jump into work. And then I think from that, maybe I was working a few hours. I do like to, even if I'm, at the point where I don't have to work, or at the point where, every, financially free or a millionaire, I still like to, work towards something, during the day. And then I definitely like to end my day, like, I'm getting married. So like, we like to have dinner together, and like one of our favorite date nights is going to the movies, and we have a AMC movie pass. So we try to go to the movies to see what's out. And so like, I think starting the day self-care, being productive during the day, and then ending my day with, my husband and family.
Love that. Question number 2 is, what is your mantra?
Be afraid, but do it anyway.
Yeah.
That's I actually have it tattooed on me because I'm like, I say it every day. I gotta see it every day. But
yes.
I hope for me, it's like, people are like, aren't you scared? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, everyone. And that's the thing. It's everyone's scared. Even the people who have hundreds and thousands of units, they still get scared. That is so normal.
Well, exactly. Or like, I don't know about you. There's like things that scare me every day, right?
100%.
Like
getting in a car.
Exactly. Like, am I going to not make it to Chick-fil-A before they close? Like, that scares, right? There's things that scare me, when it's like, when you push towards a goal and you just like overcome that fear, it definitely makes you stronger. So yeah, I love to work through that fear.
Love that. Amazing. Okay. And last question, what does wealth mean to you?
Wealth means being able to choose what I do with my time. And, not having money be a focus on how I'm choosing my time. So I see like my ultimate kind of like wealth goal would be to, be able to work more for like nonprofits and work for, lower like income or like disadvantaged communities where right now I'm definitely at a point where I'm growing and I charge for my educational resources, but I would love to be to a point where I don't, that is something I can really, satisfy my passion, but not have to, not charge. So you're definitely just having, enough, and having, more than enough it's growing for me, but, being able to have freedom over my time.
I love that. Well, this was amazing, Jamie, and I know so many people are going to get so many good nuggets from this episode. What is the best way for people to reach out to you? Maybe they want to learn more about systems and processes or the MTR strategy or whatever that looks like. What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, so I'm most active on Instagram. It's at Jamie Banks Real Estate. So you can definitely follow me there and shoot me a DM.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. This has been awesome.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to Wanderlust Wealth Show. Now, don't forget to follow the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you love this episode, it would literally mean the world to me if you shared this with a friend or a family member, or literally like anyone off of the street. Like right now, go ahead, share it so you don't forget, or post it on social media and make sure to tag me. I love seeing what you're listening in on and what you resonated with, and I'm just so freaking thankful for you. I'm so freaking excited for you. I love you, and don't forget, life really doesn't have to be hard.